say that. That's weird. I'll give it about 30 seconds.
What's up, buddy?
Besides, people will come back and watch it, even if there's only... Give it about 10 more seconds. I'm showing 9 people.
Yeah, it's
10. It's jumping a little. Let's say we just start talking.
Yeah.
Turn that off. All right, hey guys, and welcome to our Periscope on the Ides of March and how this relates to Trump. We wanted to talk about the Ides of March because the Ides of March is always known as more of an omen than a good time, but just as Trump is making everything else great again, the Ides of March are going to be great again. And we have a new era, a new paradigm going on, and we want to talk about the historical, what the Ides of March used to be, and it didn't used to be
An ominous thing. It
was a celebration.
It was a new year, a new beginning.
And it wasn't an ominous thing until Shakespeare wrote his tragedy, and we want to talk about that. So I'm Yvonne Burton, and this is my brother Lewis Everett. You can follow us on Twitter. He's under Lewis Everett, right?
Lewis Everett 3.
Lewis Everett 3, and I'm just Yvonne Burton. So thanks all of you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed this Periscope. The first thing I want to talk about, and maybe you can talk about this more because you know more about the history of it. The Ides of March didn't used to be an ominous thing. It was it was a new year because March was the first month in the Julian calendar, right?
It was New Year's Day, basically.
And they used to throw celebrations. It was a time for paying off debts, which, we're not exactly paying off debts, but we are getting more money in our paycheck thanks to Trump.
Trump is settling some debts, too.
Right. And so Trump is basically the opposite of Shakespeare's
His tragedy.
His tragedy. They were taking out Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar wanted to be appointed dictator of Rome, and Trump is the opposite of that. Trump is trying to restore this republic, and that's another part of this Periscope is we want to talk about what all he's doing, all of the good things that he's doing. It's easy to get lost in the mainstream media's negative stories and their negative spin on Trump, but Trump has done more than any president in history. It makes you wonder what all of our other presidents have done, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, to all of his, not all of his accomplishments, but a lot of the accomplishments that we would have never seen. It doesn't matter which other GOP candidate that you would have picked, we would have never seen. But so let's start by talking about what the Ides of March was back in history.
Yeah, the Ides of March was a new beginning. It was a celebration. It was also the rites of spring, and they basically would celebrate Anna Perenna, and her first name Anna means live through a year, and her second name Perenna means last many years. So this is what you would wish upon people on the Ides of March back in Rome in those days. And now we have annuals and perennials, so there's some things that follow through with that. But what we have now is we've got a Bizarro Julius Caesar in our midst.
Exactly.
Who is taking a lot of stab wounds rhetorically from many people in the deep state and the media, and just so many people that are against this man. we've
And I think that's a difference too in calling him Bizarro Caesar, is that Caesar didn't have God on his side, and I don't think I've never seen a more prayed over man than Trump. You know, when he was running, you know, he claimed he's a Christian. You know, I didn't really know. We all know about his past. It's not perfect, but I never dreamed that our First Lady would be reading, was it the Lord's Prayer at the?
right.
I don't know if it was the prayer breakfast or what, but that's polar opposite of what Julius Caesar was, and it's probably one of the biggest reasons that Deep State wants to take him out. Whereas back then, Deep State, that was kind of like a fight between Deep State and Deep State,
Yeah,
maybe?
basically. The senators wanted to keep their power. It was supposedly to save the republic, but they ended up destroying the republic anyway. And that's what these people on the left are trying to do now, is destroy the republic. And we need to find a way to stand behind POTUS on this, on so many things, and kind of stay sure through the fight, because he hasn't let me down yet. And there's been times, just a couple of times in the past year, where I thought, oh no, why did he say that? And you got to keep remembering, this man is negotiating, and he knows the den of wolves that he got into before he even ran for this office. I believe this was a long planned thing, and he's going to make the Ides great again. And it's not just the Ides of March, it's going to be the Ides of all the months of the year.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that the Ides, it wasn't just March. It was, is it every month? It's just
Every month has an Ides, and sometimes they're not on the 15th. Most of the time they are. We've got to do some more research actually on that complicated calendar before the Julian calendar,
right,
back in 45 BC.
And so we will be doing another video on April 15th, because who knows how many other good things.
Oh, Asher's going to say hello for
Hello.
just a minute.
This is Asher. Asher will not ever be put into the bin of an airplane
No, he won't.
to suffocate and die, even if they tell us to.
No.
But anyway, that was another thing I wanted to talk about, is towards the end I want to talk more about what we can do to help our president. You know, more things that we can do to help our president. We'll get to that, you know, later. But the Shakespearean tragedy was Deep State taking out Deep State, fighting over power. And if you look at what's going on now with Trump, I mean, have you ever seen a president with so many forces allied against him? Because I don't think that I have. I mean, I wasn't around in the Nixon era, and I imagine that might have been similar.
Not just so many forces allied against him, but still being able to accomplish what he's accomplished in the first year.
Right. So, you know that this is Bizarro Caesar, because that's why they want to take him out so bad. You know, Trump is ending their gravy train. I mean, Trump, you know, yesterday was the election in Pennsylvania where Connor Lamb won. And, you know, I'm hearing rumors that Paul Ryan supported Connor Lamb. Who here in this Periscope doesn't think that Paul Ryan doesn't want to see Trump impeached? I mean, he's got delusions of grandeur. I mean, I think he wants to run for president, like so many of them out there do. But
he probably wants to be the real Superman too, but we've got a Bizarro Superman that'll knock him out of the sky.
Yeah, no, Trump is Superman. But if you go back and you read about the Ides of March before Caesar was taken out, you know, I read where they had celebration on the banks of the river. What river was that? I don't remember the river.
Well, not they had the celebrations outside of Rome a lot, but
yeah.
You know, Julius Caesar, there was the crossing of the Rubicon. You shouldn't cross the river with your army when you're heading back to Rome after victories and such.
Right. So we want to start a new tradition of celebrating the Ides of March as a good thing. And who knows, next year maybe we'll even have a huge party. Who knows how many other great things that we'll be celebrating that Trump has done. He's done so much already. But we were going to go over a few things that have happened on the Ides of March in the past that are just interesting trivia, which you can start with some of them.
Yes, I mean, and some of them, they're not related to anything in particular, but, you know, in 1493, Columbus returned to Spain after his first voyage to the New World. In 1820, Maine became the 23rd state. A lot of historical stuff with Maine. They had a very brave captain at the Battle of Gettysburg that ended up being a governor of Maine. In 1917, Woodrow Wilson held the first presidential press news conference.
Which, speaking on that, I would love to see Trump just give his first press conference bypassing totally the media, doing just all live stream. I kind of have a feeling like he's heading towards that, but man, wouldn't that be to have these fireside chats? I get a feeling with Trump
that he's really just starting to hit his stride. I think he went into office in the first place actually believing that he could reach across the aisle with some people.
Yeah.
And then now realizing just how vehement and how angry and distorted views that these people on the left have. That there is no compromise. You actually have to win.
Right.
You have to defeat these people. They are not interested in compromise. So that's why I responded to a tweet to the Dear Kyle guy that was one of the victims at the shooting in Florida a couple of weeks ago.
Parkland.
Is that I'm really for what he's trying to do, but I'm bipartisanship, and I'm 50 years old, so I may be a little bit jaded, but bipartisanship is way overrated, and you don't read in history books about the great bipartisans. You don't read in history books about the great moderates.
Their idea of bipartisanship is
the conservatives' fault.
Compromise, and they always do. Up until Trump, they always do.
Well, they're actually their view of it is that the conservatives fold, and now we've had bipartisanship. So,
right.
You know, those guys that formed our nation back in the 1780s and 90s, they were not bipartisan. They were radicals.
Right.
And they were radicals for good.
They were. So, but that the Woodrow Wilson holds the first presidential news conference. I mean, imagine Trump along the. Well, this is not Woodrow Wilson. I think it was, who was it, Truman, that started doing the fireside chats?
Well, the fireside chats were as Roosevelt on the radio.
Yeah, but if he could do that on Facebook Live or YouTube or Periscope, that would be awesome. Those would be awesome.
A couple more things on the Ides of March. 1985, the first domain name for the internet was registered.
Which is interesting because the internet is the reason Trump won. The internet and Twitter in particular. Right. So I think that's a.
It gave us a better communication system rather than relying on the mainstream media.
And it seems kind of serendipitous, you know, because that's what would go on to help Trump, you know, finish the cross that line. But also the Watts riots in 1966 were. It had something to do. Somebody was killed. It was a race type thing, wasn't it? I wanted to bring that up because back then in the 60s, just like the Russians are doing now, I mean, I don't know about Russians interfering in the election as far as the election itself, but they're very good at
manipulation.
Sowing discord, and they were doing the same things in the 60s during the 1966 Watts riots, and they're doing the same thing now with Antifa. And Congress wants us to, not Congress, but some elected officials in deep state want us to think that Russia might have been responsible for Trump winning because they interfered with the election, but that's not true. They're just there to sow discord, and they do such a good job. It's sad that people fall for it.
Right. And and a big one for me here is in 1783, Washington averted an officer mutiny over them not getting paid by the Continental Congress. In some cases, over 2 years plus, and these guys were still fighting. People don't understand the debt that this nation owes to George Washington, going back to holding the Army together throughout the Revolution and fighting with the Continental Congress the entire time. And then after becoming our president for 2 consecutive terms and then stepping down, people expected him to be the king or the next ruler, emperor of America. And he set such a great precedent for our country. So
he did, and Trump, not in the same ways, but you have to look at what Trump gave up. I mean, he was a billionaire. He was living the life. He did not need everything that's going on. His family's under attack, every minute of the day. He left so much to become president, and I hope we don't lose sight of that and just be grateful for it because he saved us from Hillary.
He's actually being a true public servant because he did not have to do this. There's much easier ways for him to make a lot more money than to get himself to be president and then try to make deals then. There's much better ways and much more efficient ways to do that.
Right.
And then lastly, in 1965, President Johnson was urging Congress to pass the Civil Rights Act. And whose help did he need for that? The Republican Party.
Well, actually, they would have passed that 2 or 3 years earlier. They didn't want it passed on a Republican presidency. It would have been passed before then, but it was because of the Republicans that was passed on the Ides of March. Anyway, so
we can look at his accomplishments.
Yeah, we want to look at his accomplishments.
And none of these are small accomplishments.
None of these, and I barely touched on. In the link, in the title of this Periscope, I have a link to my website, YvonneBurton.net, and on that top blog post, you'll see these accomplishments. And I only put the ones that I thought no other GOP candidate. I don't believe that any other GOP candidate. You can't convince me that Ted Cruz would have approved ANWR drilling, even though I think he might have wanted to. Or ISIS all but decimated, withdrew from UNESCO. I never even saw that coming. I didn't. Withdrew from the Paris Climate Accord. You think that Lil Marco would have done that? Revised the rules for screening potential terrorists. Stopped funding for international abortions. He did that on day one, if I'm remembering right. He turned NASA's mission back to space exploration instead of Muslim outreach and propaganda. Most of the GOP are scared of their own shadow, so they wouldn't have wanted to touch that, even if they wanted to do it. They repealed the ACA mandate. The war on coal is gone. Drastically reduced staff in cabinet agencies. And then Gorsuch.
And that's just such long-term strategic changes. And if we get another Supreme Court justice, and then all the appellate judges been appointed. I mean, there's been some tremendous. I've seen the most conservative president in my lifetime. I got to vote for Reagan one time, and I don't even think Reagan could have accomplished this. And I know he's the Ronaldus Maximus, that as Rush Limbaugh says. But this Mr. President Trump is really taking this to a whole new level, and I can't wait to see what comes in the next Ides next month. Ides of April. Can't wait for the victories we celebrate then.
Either then or even next year on the Ides of March again. But I wanted to end this Periscope by just talking about what we can do to help prop up this president, to help support him, because he's just one man. No one man was ever going to save this country. And that's the thing about Reagan. Reagan was just one man. But you have to remember, even Reagan did the first amnesty in late 1980s. It turned California blue. So we've got.
And that was a promise to secure the border at that time. So
yeah.
Look where we're at now. It's a sieve.
Same place. So what I wanted to suggest to people, and I'm going to update it. I don't have it on my blog now, but I'm going to put a link on there. If we're going to help this president turn things around, you're going to have to know your leaders as well as your favorite athletes or your favorite celebrities. You need to put their cell phone numbers, with their name in your phone, and you need to be calling them, not just on one issue, once a year, but anytime there's a need, and there should be a need just about every week. You want to be hounding them so much that when they see the number, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, Yvonne again. And most people don't do that. Most people don't even know who their representatives are. But I'm going to put that on my blog, so you can look for that there. But also, I wanted to talk to you about on Twitter, when we're talking about a specific issue. You what?
I'm sorry. Asher's trying to say.
That's all right. When you're talking about a specific issue and we're using a hashtag, maybe it's gone viral, maybe it hasn't. But if it's a hashtag that Twitter or the left doesn't like, they're going to diffuse it by auto-correcting to a misspelling or adding a letter or whatever. The closest example I can think of is the hashtag #ClearFlynnNow. That, you know, it's hashtag clear. If you're tweeting about General Flynn, use the hashtag #ClearFlynnNow, and don't let it be Clear Flynn or Clear General Flynn, because those don't have as many tweets under them, and so that's how they diffuse the power. So I'd like you to learn how to figure out which hashtags to use, and there's plenty of websites that can tell you who's got the most tweets. That, and then also when you tweet, I learned this from Ali, that at White House, which is the White House administration, the White House's Twitter account, they actually listen to, or they pay attention, they monitor that. They monitor that Twitter account, so they hear us. And I know this because a couple of times that we've done a Periscope with Ali, one was over one was over chain migration and the lottery, ending the visa lottery, and we tweeted at White House, and the next day, you know, Trump is tweeting about ending chain migration. So I know that works. So be aware of that. Also, as the media spins everything so negatively about Trump, everything, I mean, it's amazing all of the good things that can happen, and it's fun to watch them. Their mental gymnastics, can turn a good thing into something bad, but they are not going to report anything good, and so it's easy to get discouraged or demoralized, which is their goal. That's their main goal. And so I want to encourage people not to be demoralized, not to be discouraged. Be a happy warrior. You'll inspire more engagement that way. You know, MLK said, hate cannot stamp out hate. Only love can do that. So I want to remind people, because I know for a little while on Twitter that I kind of slipped into I was very cynical, and I found, and actually somebody pointed it out to me, that I sounded a little bit more bitter, and I was thinking, you know what, you're going to catch more flies with honey than the bitterness.
That's something we all have to watch for. And I would just, ending for me is Trump's only consistent support in this nation is MAGA.
Yeah.
MAGA nation.
It's not the GOP.
And we want to win. I know there's a lot of people out there, myself included. I just got on Twitter back in December myself, and I kind of got cynical for a few years, and I still voted, but I totally checked out. I stopped watching news. I couldn't stand it. And actually, my sister Yvonne here has kind of gotten me re-energized. And I'm trying to engage on Twitter and learn the semantics of it. This is my first Periscope. Kind of like talking in public, whether there's only 5 people not watching you or not. Still kind of nervous and trying to get comfortable with that. But we need to stay positive. And remember, we've got this president who's shown so many goppers the way, how to take this and how to take the hits and keep going. You don't care what they think. And we just got to stay consistent with our support for him and do the things that Yvonne here discussed here just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, he's a fighter. I've seen people on Twitter, Ali, Mike Sarnovich, Jack Posobiec, and they have everybody and their brother coming after them, and they, the template is there. I mean, we've seen Trump do it. Mike Sarnovich, I've seen everybody come after him, and you just fight. You push back. You don't take what they're, you don't take it. And the GOP is not really known for fighting like that, but the MAGA movement is, and that's what I love about it. I've become so inspired. I was part of the Tea Party. I was I used to be the head of the local the local team of the Mid-South Tea Party, and I saw what happened with the Tea Party, but the Tea Party was new and didn't, our ignorance was used against us, but we've learned a lot and we've grown, and I see a lot of the Tea Party and the MAGA movement, and the thing I like about the MAGA movement is, they're willing to fight, and we have to be willing to fight.
Well, I think was the only weakness for me that the Tea Party had, was we didn't have a fighter at the top leading us in the first place. So
and now
we knew what we wanted, but we didn't have somebody in Washington, D.C. that was truly on our side. and this guy's taking arrows right and left, and he's having a good time. You can tell.
Yeah, I mean, he looks better than ever.
He's thought about this. This office is not wearing him down so far, and we just need to stay behind him.
And stay positive, and just remember this March of Ides. Imagine how this could have been so different. Hillary could have been our president. I mean, we all watched her tumble down the stairs. Was it yesterday? God,
A couple of days ago.
With the media telling us, oh, there's nothing wrong with her health, and then, meanwhile telling us Trump's, mentally deranged, and
yeah.
It all could have been so different. So what I want people to take away from this is to stay positive and stay encouraged, and to hone their craft. I haven't done that many periscopes, and it doesn't come natural to me.
Me neither.
But I want to be out there, and I want to encourage and inspire others to stay positive and to focus on the positive things. The media is going to tell you, they're going to spin everything negative, but if you watch what he's doing, his actions, it doesn't matter what they say. One thing we've learned about the media here in the last year is they don't have the power to destroy anymore. They don't have the power to spin their narratives. They used to be able to take people down. I mean, Mike Cernovich is still standing. I mean, it's freaking amazing. So be a happy warrior. Make sure that you are making these phone calls to your leaders about whatever your concerns are, because I don't think people understand how potent these phone calls are. I have learned from Ali on Twitter that phone calls are the bomb, and it's one way that your elected leaders know what's going on out here. When they start getting bombarded, when people take time out of their day to call them, they start getting worried. It concerns them. So I don't want a lot of people thinking, oh, well, it doesn't matter. A lot of people will tweet out when I encourage people to call for whatever reason. They'll say, oh, it won't make a difference. It doesn't matter. It's negative Nellies. But I've seen it work. I've seen it work about 3 times here in the last 6 months. So we need to get on a first name basis with our elected leaders and help Trump, because he's just one man, and he doesn't need to be taking all the arrows. And even though people, you can get beat up just wearing a MAGA hat walking down the street, and it doesn't seem like Trump ever says anything. I wish he would. I'll get over it if he doesn't, but I wish he would. But just remember, he's walking through the fire, and we need to be too.
Yeah.
Trump is the Bizarro Julius Caesar. He is trying to restore this republic, and it's a republic. That's what we have. And
if we can keep it.
Ben Franklin said, walking out of the convention, of the Constitutional Convention, what sort of government did you give us? A republic, madam. He was speaking to Mrs. Powell. A republic, madam, if you can keep it. He didn't say if your elected officials, and back then Miss Powell didn't have voting rights. She still had a lot of power over those in her inner circle.
Yeah.
So, we don't have any excuse. We need to up our game, because the midterm elections are coming up in November, and Trump has done a lot of good. I don't know if it's going to be enough to get people out to vote, but that's where we can come in to help, because we can't have him impeached, and it's kind of heading in that direction. Or
we lose the republic if we lose Trump.
Right.
Through illegal means like this, through this fake dossier, through all this crap that's going on, we lose our republic. We've got a reprieve here.
Right. And
we actually need President Trump for the next 7 years so that we can develop the next fighter. Somebody that's going to fight and win.
Right.
So it's going to be a long haul. We've got a rare chance here.
Right. Totally agree. So I'm going to wrap it up, but I hope that'll be your takeaway, that this March of Ides, this is a good thing. There's a bunch of good stuff going on right now. At the same time that there's floating around all these uncertainties that we don't know where it's going to go, but Trump seems to be an anointed man. There's a lot of people praying over him, so who knows what can happen, but I know we need to be doing our part. So I just wanted to take the time out to do a periscope on the March of Ides. It's a good thing.
bear with us. We're going to be coming to you on a more frequent basis, hopefully, and I won't be sick with a sore throat, and we'll be a little bit more collected and just more at ease with this process. But we felt that me and Yvonne just wanted to put our voices out there and hopefully encourage people and kind of just see something in a different light, maybe, and just I know there's a lot of us out there, and that's one thing that's got me fired up with Twitter. I know some people have told me it's a sewer out there, and yes, it is, but I've been encouraged by some big heavy hitters like Cernovich and Sobek, and Kurt Schlichter really comes to mind. I like how he hits back, and you know, I like how he uses the new rules, guys. This is how it did. You made this. You made these new rules for the boxing ring for us, so we're going to start playing them.
And that's the difference between the old GOP and those in the MAGA movement is we're going to fight, and if we have to abide by the rules, your crazy rules, you're going to live by them too. And we've seen with Trump and with Cernovich and with Ali and all these other guys, all you have to do that is just to push back and fight. If you don't push back and if you don't fight, you can't win. But these people are so easy, actually, that all it takes is just to push back. So that's the difference between the old, stupid party and the MAGA movement is we're going to fight. And Trump's taking the hits for us, and so we need to up our game and step out there and start taking some hits too and fight.
And we won't win everybody over, but I'll just finish with block the dim-wits and try to win over some other people and move on.
All right. So we hope we're going to be doing this again next month on the Ides of April, and celebrating all the things that the mainstream media is not. So with that, I'll end this and say until next month.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye. Stop broadcast.
Oh, we had some people.
Do we?